How do you do therapy sessions with yourself? Nikki wants to ask this follow-up question because I mentioned this in an earlier episode on the podcast, and I would love to answer this. But first I want to say welcome to Times Square. I wanted to get to play with a maximum New York iconic feeling and see if I can integrate it into the podcast in a meaningful way. So I am standing literally in the middle of the craziness, and I've never really liked Times Square, I must admit. I've never been drawn to this. I used to joke that I would prefer never to go here. But actually, I must admit that today, for the purpose of this, I find it really fun. I find that it's a collage almost that I can play with, and where I'm interested in exploring how it adds to this without becoming the center of attention, which is hard because it is really bright and flashy. So I'm enjoying that a lot. So to the question of therapy sessions with myself, let's start with the very tangible part, which is how I do it. For me, it is taking a piece of paper and a pen, and it has to be a pen that I enjoy writing with, ideally. Like I want it to be an enjoyable process. So writing with a ballpoint pen or a pencil that requires pressure is not comfortable for me, or for most people, I would say, because you have to hold it so tightly. So picking a pen, an ink pen, a fountain pen, or a marker, where you can hold it more lightly in your hand, and where the writing experience feels enjoyable, whatever is enjoyable to you. The same with paper. Having paper that is smooth enough and fits appropriately with the pen of your choice makes the whole process much more enjoyable. Ideally, I prefer doing it in a notebook where the pages are bound together, because I like also having the collection that I can flip back through and see what I experienced, and that it feels kind of put together in a way. But in an emergency situation, I will sometimes do it, if I don't have anything else around it, with a scrap piece of paper and a Sharpie or whatever I have. So it's not dependent on that. But again, in an ideal setting, it's a pen and a notebook. And then it's about making time to sit down and do it, which is the hardest part. Having the pen, having the notebook is something you only need to solve once. And then you have it and you bring it with you, you stuff it in your bag. The hardest part is to say, now I will do this. I'm gonna not do something else. I'm gonna sit myself down, ideally in a reasonably quiet place, where you're at least not interrupted. There can maybe be background music or other people, so long as they don't want something from you. And then I sit down. It can be in a cafe, in a restaurant, before a meal, after a meal. I sit down, I open the notebook, and then it's hard to start with a blank page, so I draw a frame around the page, just very slowly, using my fingers in a way to make a nice and precise border all the way around the page, as a way to kind of start the page. And then in the top corner or in the side, I write the date and where I'm at, the location. And then I'm usually ready to begin. Sometimes I start with a question that I've been thinking about for myself. Sometimes I don't know where to begin. So then the challenge is just to begin, to start with whatever is immediate to get the pen starting. So I will start sometimes with, I'm sitting here. It took me 2 days to decide to do this. But now I am sitting, and this is what I'm thinking about. I've noticed in the past couple of days that I'm worried about this thing. And then I let it flow from there. Sometimes questions come up and I answer, and sometimes it just pours out by itself. And I don't know when I'm done. Sometimes I run out of time, sometimes I get interrupted. Sometimes I think that I am done, but I am not. There's more that I just can't get it out right now. And other times I don't think that I am done, but there is no more, and it is done, and I will realize it a few days later. I was done. But it's impossible to know. The important thing is to, for me to stop, do it, and make time for it. Nikki also asked me how often I do it and for how long I sit, and all of that really varies. I would say right now, generally where I'm at in my life, I don't do it frequently enough. I think for the transition that I'm in with a new job, new team, whole new industry, it would be good for me to do it at least once or twice a day. And right now, I'm probably doing it more like every other day. But that's okay. It's better than not doing it at all. But I think a good place to start is for anyone who wants to get started. Try to do 5 minutes every day and see what comes from that, or maybe 10. I can sometimes sit for 40 minutes writing like this. But it's not about the minutes, it's about, like, that's what felt good for me at that time. So explore it and see if it makes sense to you. And with that, my handhold setup here is done. My arm is falling off. I'm just going to give you a little bit more panoramic around here. And then I'll say thank you for listening. Bye.